Welcome to Rick Rack Ruby. I'm Laura Cluvo. Today we will make this vintage lace owl Christmas ornament. It's fun and easy, so let's get started. I don't want anyone to think that they need to find a specific lace in order to complete this project. This is the lace I'll be using today. These will be the eyes of the owl, but I wanted to show you some other examples and how they could also work. You can use these kind of, lace appliques for the eyes. This will be cute. These will work. Let's see. This is slightly different. These will work. These are about 1 inch. These are bigger, so you might have to draft a larger pattern, but these will work. And also, these little pieces will also work for a beak. This is a small one, so this would work for a tiny little owl. Wouldn't that be cute? I know, that's on my list. This is the lace I'll be using for my wings, but these would work. You just separate these. That looks kind of like wings. These would be good for smaller wings. They look like little paisleys. They'll work, and they'll go with the little baby eyes. That would be cute. But this is the one I'm using today. And then I wanted to show you even something like this will work. These can be the eyes, and then the beak goes over this, and this just becomes part of the face or the cheeks. Of course, it's a little bigger, so it'd have to be redrafted. These will work. These will work. These pieces I thought could be a beak right here. I just pulled out anything that I thought would work. Anyway, don't think that you have to have a specific, a specific lace. These are vintage, and you might not be able to find the exact same thing. Oh, this too, I thought this would be fun. Something like this could be like an owl pillow. Maybe I would use these. And these could be the eyes for an owl pillow and just make it bigger. I don't know, we could find something for the beak, and that would be really fun to make. So don't believe that you have to have the exact lace that I'm using. There are many, many different styles that will work. So we're going to need a pattern, and my pattern, it starts with a piece of graph paper that is 3 inches wide and 6 inches tall. Fold it in half, and then just gently round off the corner, come in slightly, not even 1/4 of an inch, and then up to the top for the ear, and then along here, and I might have made that a little too squared off, something like that. And as long as you start with a 6x3 rectangle, and keep the curves gentle. You don't want to go way in. Just nice and gentle, because there is a seam allowance. By the time you take the seam allowance, it's going to be smaller. And you don't need to cut this out from anything except for interfacing. Then there's this little piece that I call the mask. This is a 1.5 by 2.5 inch piece of graph paper, like this. Fold it in half and just round off the top. Start about 1/4 of an inch down, and then on the outside go about 1/2 inch down. And just round it off, and that's the little mask. You can make your mask any color. Here's the interfacing that I cut out for my owl. I'm using, this is a piece of textured fabric that I got from the thrift store. It was a pair of pillow shams, and I just like the texture. I didn't know what I was going to make out of it, but it is DKNY Pure. Like I say, I just got this at the thrift store. I got a pair of them, and it's just a nice texture, and I like the way it looked. But I have used many other fabrics for this project. Here is a piece of an old crazy quilt, and then I used brown fur. Here is, oh, this was an embroidered kind of a tea towel, and it had brown in the embroidery, so I used brown for this mask. This one is one of my favorites. This is a piece of paisley, and I use sort of a rust color and then the brown fur on the back. So don't limit yourself. You can use anything you like, and of course I like vintage. So I will fuse this to the back and then cut it out. I'll fuse it and cut it out, and I'll be right back. Here we go. Here is the front of my owl, and I've already cut the little mask piece from felt. Remember, you have a seam allowance over here. The mask does not have to go all the way to the edge. I like to use this little glue stick for this. It just works really well. It's convenient, and it doesn't put too much glue on. So I'll just line that up about right there. This one, you can see how I cut this out well beyond the mask piece. I like to line up this at the bottom, and there is a little extra up there, and depending on your lace, you might need to make some adjustments to your mask. But again, let me make sure, okay, this is the right side. And I will just apply a little bit of glue. And place that here. That is good. Okay, then I'm going to cut a couple of these leaf motifs for wings. So this will be I think that's the right side. Also, when I cut these motifs apart, the lace is not completely intact. There are a few places where, you know, like maybe right here where this little part doesn't have a complete tip. I'm going to make sure, and then I like the stems to be within the 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, but I don't want them to overlap. So I try to get them random. You know, they're not like exactly tilted in the exact same angle. This glue looks bright and blue, but once it dries, you don't see it anymore. I'm going to wait to do the beak. And I have some off-white thread. Actually, I have white thread in my machine. I'm going to zigzag along here, and then along here, and along here. And then I'm going to zigzag along here, back and around. The thread from the sewing machine kind of just, it will be disguised. It won't show very much, and it just adds a little bit of texture. So I'll sew, and I'll be right back. So the mask and the wings are sewn down, and now it's time for the beak. Every beak looks a little different. I usually use this, and well, this one looks good. And sometimes I use the little bent ones, and sometimes I use the straight ones. Sometimes they're bigger, sometimes they're smaller. But today, I think I'll use this one. And I'm gonna glue it right there. And then I'm just gonna sew right down the middle with a straight stitch. A tiny bit of glue. And then a straight stitch down and back. There we go. I'm gonna trim this a little bit so I can see a little better what this owl is going to look like. Next, I'll embroider the eyes. I'm going to use this sort of amber shade of floss. I like the amber. I almost always use this color, but of course you can use any color you like. I'm going to cover these little spots in the center. I'm going to make 4 stitches. First an X and then across It doesn't have to be perfect. If your lace doesn't, doesn't work this way, you can always just sew a little French knot or a satin stitch circle or something else. Does not have to be perfect. You just want to give the impression of the pupil of the eye. I've also done these in black and in brown. That looks good. So I will secure my thread. I'm going to add a little smudge of hot glue, just a touch. And then I'll repeat for the second. I'm using 3 strands of embroidery floss, and I cut it very long. I'm going to use this same long piece of floss for a couple of other steps in this project, including the hanging loop. So I just went ahead and cut it very long. 4 stitches, an X, and then a cross, and we will call it a day. That looks good. I'll secure my thread. And here's how it looks. I also did somewhere I added blush to the cheeks. I had just a pale pink mask and then some blush, and it was kind of a girly project. I don't know what happened to those, but you can blush the cheeks if you like. So now we are going to sew it together. I love to use faux fur for the back of these little kind of stuffed animal projects, because then when you turn them, you have this little fringe. It's a kooky, you have a kooky little fringe of fur around the edge, and I just love that. This is a short pile of fur, and it's, really cute. And then this is long, so it's a little bit more crazy. So I'm going to pin and stitch around the edge, and I'm going to leave the opening at the bottom, and it's going to be pretty big because I want to be able to turn and stuff through the opening in the bottom. So I'll probably leave it open from here to here, and then I'll stitch around the rest, and I'll back stitch where I start and end, and then I will turn it and stuff it. I've stitched around the edge, and now I will trim and turn. I did a very small seam allowance. I would call it a scant 1/4 inch. It's not perfect. It's so small, I don't think I need to clip anything. And then I'll turn through this opening. Let's see how it's going to look. Okay, looks pretty good. Let's get those ears. That looks good. Now I'll stuff it. With polyfill. Now to gather up the opening, I'm just going to go around a circle and just, gather it up that way instead of trying to go back and forth to make it flat. I like it to be more of a circle, so it's a little bit more dimensional on the bottom. It gives a little, I don't know, it just makes them a little bit fatter on the bottom, I guess. And I like the look of that. So I'm just going to do a running stitch. I think I need a little bit more stuffing. Let me get back all the way around before I put some more stuffing in there. I use a thimble, of course. That looks good. We just have a couple more steps. This one I call tufting the ears. So with my 3 strands of embroidery floss, I'm going to start on the top and just go down and back up. Just one little stitch. And pull it through. And then I'm going to tie this into a little square knot and pull it tight. That sort of creates a little indentation in the ear. And then I'm going to cut off these ends kind of long, maybe about a ½ inch long. That gives a little extra detail there. So I'll show you one more time. So down, and back, and then tie it off. Twice, and then leave about a ½ inch. And there we go, 2 little tufted ears. And then, do I have enough for a hanging loop? I think I do. Just sew through the center. I like to just use the same floss so you have some sort of continuity in the project instead of introducing a whole new element. And there we go. This owl is done. Maybe I'll bring up a couple of his friends. There we go. That looks cute. Thank you for watching my video. If you're enjoying my tutorials, please like, share, and subscribe.